Carbonaro?
Here.
DEYNE?
Yes, here.
DeBrenya?
Here.
Hopkins? Ranky?
Present.
President Wallace?
Here. First item on our agenda, or only item on our agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting, Seniors Finance and Golf Committee, Chairman DEYNE.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only item we have on the agenda under Golf and Finance this evening is the proposed 2018 property tax levy. With that, he left. I'd left.
No, he's already.
I'm over here.
Hey, I gave him a time limit here. He's already ready to crack.
I'm looking over there. I don't see anybody. I'm thinking, I'm going to ask for a recess.
Talk. What are you asking for?
I was going to ask for a recess if I didn't find him.
Oh.
I'm here.
Okay, good. Go for it.
Thank you, Chairman DEYNE. It is property tax levy time, and I am going to try to keep this to the basics. We've seen this before, but please feel free to ask questions if you'd like to ask questions. Just the general. This is for the general fund, for the principal and interest on our debt service, our general obligation bonds, and also the property tax levy goes to fund our police pension contribution every year. It's split by the counties. We're in 3 different counties, so it is split. 38.75% goes to Cook County, about 61% to DuPage. Kane County was still at 0.22%. So it's growing, but hasn't made a dent into the tax burden yet. The schedule for the year is, this is where the general corporate levy is set during the budget process. We decide the budget, we decide how much is going to be funded through the property tax levy. Our budget year starts May 1, and then now we're in the fall here where we're going to levy the taxes. This is the chart that shows the levy to the last year's extension. The extension includes the loss factor that the counties include. This is how it's stated in the municipal code for the truth in taxation purposes. The subtotal under general and police pension, the 0.8%, that's where your truth in taxation number would be. So if we're at 5% or over, that's where we would be required to hold a public hearing. We always hold a public hearing anyway, just to be open on this. But compared to the extension, it will be lower. Our levy is lower than the extension. It's because the extension included a loss factor. That's 3% in Cook County for the general and 1% in DuPage County. So 0.06. This next slide, though, shows what our actual levy is this year compared to last year's actual levy. As you can see, we're keeping the corporate levy the same. Police pension levy is set to go up $205,000. That's determined by our annual actuarial report that was completed using the figures at the end of April 30, 2018. And our debt service levy is set to go up just about $11,000. Some of the factors that are going into the police pension increase, and I'm going to get into it a little bit more later, $93,000 of that $205,000 increase is from us lowering our assumed investment rate of return on the actuarial report. We were at 7.5% years ago. We reduced it to 7.25%. Pension board has recommended, and they voted to approve, that we lower it to 7% over the next 2 years. So this last report included an assumed rate of return on investments of 7.125 or 7.125%. And then the next year, we would lower it again, another 0.8% to 7%. So that's where we had the report completed before the reduction in the assumed rate, and then after, and the difference was $93,000 additional contribution for this, just based on reducing the assumed rate of return. Now, that's not the entire adjustment. When they change actuarial assumptions, that's actually spread out over a number of years, but that's what the 1-year effect would be.
Todd, why are they assuming that it's going to be lower?
We are assuming...
Largest bull market in history.
Yeah. I'm going to show you our rates of return, but we are not invested 100% in equities. We're invested 55 to 60% in equities, around 45% in bonds. So that's why our investment rate is not what we've been watching in the stock market with the Dow and the S&P.
Still think that's a low ball.
Well, but it seems like we're always behind on the police pension. It seems like the return isn't ever what we were projected to be, so we're always catching up.
Yeah,
It's the last few years.
and I'll show you what I got a couple slides to go. I'll show you those our smooth rate and what our actual returns were. We had a really good year this last year through December, but our year end is April 30. And so it was looking really good when we were doing our budget. Then in January, February, we lost about $2,000, $1,500 to $2,000 in our equities. And so that we didn't have to contribute that loss or reduction in investment income gets spread over the next number of years. So I'll get to that in a couple slides with what our rates have been. Also included in the factors that changed our contribution, things like besides our experience level with the investment returns, also salary increases. We've had a number of turnover, so our total covered salary has reduced because as you expense and turnover, they're replaced with people coming in at lower salaries, but then their annual increases are more until they get to the top of the range. So those are one factor. We had just one disability pension this last year, but we had a number of retirements the year before that, and this year we've already had 3 police pension retirements, 1 in July, 2 in October. So we're up to 3, which is, we have a little bit of a bubble with guys that are age 45 to 55 with 20 years of service. One thing adding to a reduced contribution is the Tier 2 level pension. In 2011, anybody hired that hadn't already been in a pension fund is considered Tier 2, and their benefits were reduced. And right now we have 12 police officers that are in Tier 2, but that's going to take time to work its way through the system. So 12 out of 56 we're in Tier 2. Then we'll be replacing 3, so they may or may not be going into Tier 2. Most likely they would be, but we'll have to see on that. In regard to the debt service, $11,000, that's just due to the debt service schedule. Our debt service is going to be pretty level until the year 31, 32. So the total increase compared to the actual levy, $216,000, or just under 2%. This is a breakdown of our debt service levy. 2009 bonds were for the Kohler ball fields, West Bartlett Road, water meter change out, Village Hall. 2012 bonds, that's from the streets, improvements, stormwater project on North Avenue. And then your 2016 police station bonds, 2017 are the refunding of the 2007 fire station bonds. For a total $3,133,000. This is our levy history. We've talked a lot about, we haven't raised the levy. So this is just going back to 2008, where our levy for the general fund, $6,760,000, and right now we're at $6,433,000. So we're below what our levy was back in 2008. Police pension, we were just under $1 million. 2008, we're looking at being at $1,583,000. And our debt service, we were at about a little over $1 million back in 2008. This is a slide with the history of our police pension annual returns. We do use, for the years 2008 through 2016, that's using a 3-year smoothing. That's where the investment returns are spread over 3 years. So the returns, the losses, increases, decreases, are spread over 3 years. That kind of smooths it out so there's no big ups and downs. Back during the stock market crash of 2008, you can see where that's reflected as those returns are realized in 2009, 2010. We didn't lose a lot of money. We had a lot of money in the bond. We were probably around 50% in bonds at that time, and bonds did very well compared to our equity portfolio. A lot of pension funds went down quite a bit during that time. We are at 77% funded at the 7 1/8 assumed investment return. The average pension fund in the state is below 65% funded. So even if we reduce this, reduce our investment, assumed investment, we'll still be over the 70%, which is still better than most funds. A lot of funds took a big hit during the equity crash. We're more conservative, but it did help us then, and it has helped. Once you get low in your funding and you're paying out while you're trying to bring money in, then it's a tough road to follow.
Although, do we have any activity with our lobbyist about fighting the consolidation of police pension funds down in Springfield? Because I really think it's problematic. When we're at 77%, we're going to get mixed in with some people that are at 40.
We actually requested an additional meeting with Northwest Municipal Conference staff, expressing that very concern with them. The pension consolidation is moving forward now at a point where they're studying it. We don't think, from talking to our lobbyists and from the conferences, that will get a lot of traction, especially it being an election year. But it's still in the study phase. They're looking at making a recommendation to even having it consolidated with IMRF. That is a little more palatable than some of the other solutions that they have out there. But we've expressed our concerns to both the conferences that we would not be in favor of that kind of move.
Yeah, I'm the only one on the executive board, DePage mayors and managers, that sit there and shake my head. Thanks, Todd. Sorry about the interruption. I figured you need a little break.
Thank you. So our average return on from 2008 to 2018 was just over 6%. And based on our bond to equities, we're 50-50 whether we would make our 7.25%. So that's why our pension board is recommending. This doesn't change the cost of the pension. It just, when your investment assumption is a little lower, it just funds it at a little higher rate. So if you do put the money in the fund, it does help you gain investment income. It does lower what you eventually have to contribute through property taxes in the long run. So our actuary is actually, he's working with towns trying to get them to put more money in on the front end instead of the back end. Currently, the law is that pension funds are to be 90% funded by the year 2040. And as that gets closer and closer, and it's going to be kind of ramping up at the end if you haven't been meeting your assumed contributions, your assumed investment returns, if your experience hasn't been as you were predicting. So our pension fund, as far as the funding, is doing very well. Usually they say 80% funded is healthy. We've been right at around the 80% fund for quite a while. So, and especially compared to other towns. They will be making some adjustments to the pensions like they always do. coming down the line to help out other towns, and that will benefit us as well. This is the assessed value, the history of our assessed value. 2017, our total increase to assessed value was 2.7%. Back in 2016 was the Cook County triennial assessment. It was very high, around 17%. Cook County actually had a decrease of 0.8% in 2017. Part of that was to do with the increase the homeowner's exemption. And so that took some of the taxable assessed value away as they increased that. DuPage County increased 4.3%. So that's where we ended up with the 2.7% overall increase. Estimate for 2018 is 3% for Cook County, 5% for DuPage. Cook County should come back a little bit, but values have been kind of up and down. I did want to note that currently 93% of our EAV is from residential properties. As far as the property tax rates go, in Cook County, 38.75% again is the burden. There's the calculation where adding in the loss factor, total levy part that will be in Cook County, $4.4 million. Estimated rate is 1.14, which is a slight decrease from the 2017 rate. DuPage County, the burden will be $6.8 million. Tax rate should be 0.94, around that, slightly, again, a slight decrease from the prior year. This is just the combined rate. Shows that it will also be down slightly based on the EAV estimated to go up a little bit and the levy to be relatively flat. As far as the percentage, we're going to be at about 10% of the total property taxes for both DuPage County and Cook County. So going on from here, we will advertise the public hearing. Public hearing will be the first meeting in November. Also, that first meeting is where we review and approve the estimated levy, and then the final levy would be adopted December the 4th, first meeting in December, with our levy needing to be filed by Christmas Day. So they told us, don't try to file it on Christmas Day, they will not be open. That's it for the levy.
We will be though, right? We'll be here?
Oh, yes, we'll be here.
Lorna just said no. All right.
Any questions on the levy?
Do this pension consolidation, just out of curiosity, who would be overseeing that grouping?
Who would oversee if they did consolidate it? Well, it depends if they do. If they give, one option was for IMRF to run it.
What was the other option?
The investments. They would only be doing the investments part. It's not the boards would still be there as far as awarding pensions and making disability terminations and things like that. That would still be in the local level. I think they're looking at just consolidating for the investment purposes to get economies of scale as far as they'd be able to. If you're a small pension fund, you cannot, their level is lower than 65% equities. So they're down there, and they have less of a chance of making a big return.
So Todd, in summary, tax levy's going down.
Tax levy compared to the extension last year is down slightly. Compared to the actual, it's up a little bit.
Thank you, Todd.
Any other questions for Todd? It's exciting stuff, levy stuff. I just want to point out that graph that we're one of the smallest portions of that tax levy, so it's interesting. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. President, that's all we have.
Thank you, Chairman Daney. No other items on our committee of the whole. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Daney, seconded by trustee Carbonaro. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Cameron,
Yes.
Carbonaro,
Yes.
Daney,
Yes.
Cabrera,
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Ranky.
Yeah.
We are adjourned.
She had a seizure, fell in the middle of the street.
What?
My dog had a seizure. What? He was taken to the hospital in an ambulance.
Today?
Yeah.